Hi guys, it's Kirsty. In today's video, I want to discuss the question of whether the theme is important or not with OCD, or when it might matter, etc. But before I go into that, I'd like to ask, please do subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button below in order to stay up to date with new videos as they're released. So the reason I wanted to do this video is because you hear quite mixed views about it, and I'm going to talk about this from a perspective of where I am as somebody who has suffered from OCD and who used to do compulsive research to learn more about it and got a bit carried away with that, who has listened to many podcasts about it and taken on board the views of various different OCD therapists and experts. So I want to talk about this from a balanced perspective based on my own experience during recovery, but also on a lot of the things that I've listened to and that I've read as well. So quite often when we're reading about OCD, you'll see things like the content of the thought is not important or the content is irrelevant. So what this refers to is obviously the detail of the thoughts that we're having, the detail of the obsessions. So we know that it's not helpful for us to delve into what the thoughts mean, etc. In fact, that's a compulsion, and that gets us further stuck and keeps us locked in the fear cycle. So regardless of what the obsessions that we're having, the last thing we want to be doing is buying into the detail of what these thoughts are and what it all means, etc. So from that perspective, we do want to be treating the thoughts and the details of the thoughts as irrelevant and continuing on with our lives as we want to lead them. So regardless of that thought that I might be having, I'm still going to do the things that I want, even if that thought is trying to put me off doing the thing that I want to do. So from that perspective, yes, the content of the thought is irrelevant and we don't want to be kind of delving into it or anything like that. But within a certain OCD theme, the detail of the thought is not relevant, because the thought is essentially, or the intrusive thought or the obsession, is just the thing that is there to get your attention in order to make you perform a behaviour that means that you're safe, i.e. a compulsion. So the other side of the story from my own experience and some of the things that I've heard and read, as I said, on various articles, podcasts, etc., is that some people would argue that the theme itself can be relevant when it comes to working on recovery and treatment. This is because you may need to kind of work out appropriate exposures with your therapist or coach or whoever you're working with that are suitable for the fear that you're having. And in order to know the fear that you're having, the theme is relevant. So, for example, somebody who is suffering from, existential OCD or solipsism, perhaps has, that would suggest that perhaps that person fears being alone or just not having any meaningful relationships, etc. So that person maybe fears, a lack of connection. So therefore, the treatment plan might be that the person that sufferer is working with, devises a treatment plan with behavioural exercises that may be planned to expose them to that particular fear. Or, for example, somebody who is suffering from relationship OCD or fears surrounding sexuality, doubting their sexuality, that person may fear not living their most authentic life or being fake or something. Or it might be that person fears losing their relationship or being alone. And so, therefore, these kind of looking the theme itself, while we don't want to delve into the detail of the theme and exactly what the thoughts are saying, the theme that we might be having or themes can tell us some of the things that we might fear. So therefore, we can work on bringing our fear levels down about surrounding that particular sort of feared scenario in order to help reduce the compulsions. So just to go over that in order to make sure that it's clear enough, basically, where we have a certain theme, we can learn from that by seeing the things that we're afraid of. And good examples of that are where we maybe have a couple, we might have had a couple of themes, but it might be that it's the same fear driving that theme, but it's just that sort of that particular topic is the thing that gets your attention in that moment. So, for example, somebody may have, start off with harm-related obsessions, and then it may move into sexual intrusive thoughts surrounding someone inappropriate, for example, when we talk about POCD, for example. So though both of those themes kind of involve a degree of guilt, firstly, because people associate these kinds of acts with being a bad person, but also there's a kind of degree of a lot of shame and fear of perhaps social exclusion or going to prison or something like that. It might be fears of everyone's going to leave you because they think you're an awful person because of various things. So it might be similar fears driving those two themes. Or, as I said before, maybe, somebody who originally suffered with relationship OCD, it starts to move to fears around, doubting their sexuality. Or it might be that somebody who had started off with fears of doubting their sexuality then have fears where they're actually doubting what gender they identify as. But either way, it might be the same fear that might be driving them, like a fear about living your best life and making the most of life and not having regrets and being authentic. So, as you can see, it can be similar fears that drive certain themes, but that's where the theme, can sometimes perhaps help to identify what somebody might need to work on with their recovery. For example, whether that's working on their beliefs surrounding a subject, or whether that's working on exposures, or if they're working with somebody on exposure hierarchies and all of that. So that's where the theme could end up being. It could be a little bit relevant. And I do think it's important when we look at this kind of thing to do it with a balanced view, rather than just writing one thing off or another, because a big part of, OCD generally is sometimes we might be holding on to quite rigid beliefs about certain things, and we want to work on being, a bit more flexible in our belief system and in our thinking. And that really, really helps us generally with mental health conditions. But what I would like to reiterate here is that while, the overall theme might be kind of relevant in terms of looking at where somebody goes with their recovery, etc. The details of the thoughts, for example, within relationship OCD, it could vary from, do I love my partner? Do I find them attractive? Are we suited? Do our values line up? Do I wish it, do I secretly wish that I was single? Am I, what if I cheated? What if they cheated? Does my partner find me attractive enough? All of those things, that detail is not relevant, so that again, that is your brain's way, the exact detail of the thought, that is your brain's way of trying to get your attention. And you might have reassured yourself on one thing and then it moves on to another, slipping around. So that level of detail is not relevant. And same as, for example, if it's harm, what if I drive my car into that lady with a pushchair, or that old lady with the walking stick, or what if I accidentally push somebody into a train track, or what if I accidentally stab my partner, or what if I deliberately kick my dog, or various things. However, whatever the detail is in there, and whether it's a thought, feeling, urge, sensation, whatever, that doesn't matter. So going into the, the minute detail of the content, that is the part, that is the bit that you want to treat as irrelevant, because that's where you can get sucked into ruminating. Because when, say if we have a particular, okay, I'm going to be really boring here and say our OCD again. Sorry to use that as an example again. It might be that, you were latched onto one particular thought was going, but then that, for whatever reason, you get an answer to that somehow, I don't know. But then another ROCD related thought comes. I was like, oh my God, actually, no, that one is a good point. It will always feel like that. And it will always feel, oh no, but this time it is real, which is why we don't want to be going into the minute detail of the thoughts. It's just that what I'm saying is sometimes the themes can give you a bit of an indication of the things that you might be afraid of. And it might be that they can come in useful in order to help with certain exposures, etc. So I hope this video has been useful. And in terms of my understanding of, whether or not the content of the thought is important, the exact content being no, but the overall theme or themes can indicate, certain areas of particular fear or perhaps, certain beliefs or, inflexibility in our beliefs and thinking that may be relevant for working on our recovery. So yes, I hope it has been helpful for you, and do take care. Bye.